guys, Tim here with Geekedupgaming. Holden's out for a nap today again. He seems to get pooped out when I get ready to do a review. But the game we're going to show you today is called Symetra.
Symetra comes from a character who is an ascended being who travels between worlds. She has returned to Earth looking for champions to use her reality-shaping interfaces in a battle against a great evil on her home planet of Orbworld. However, she can only take a few back with her.
Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's right now on Kickstarter.com. You guys can go out there and check it out. They got a really cool video. When I started sharing this game with a friend of mine, he actually, when I was describing the cards to him, which I'll show you, he was talking about how it sounded like the spectrum of emotion, is what I think. And so I've been like looking it up and studying the whole spectrum and everything, and the game has feelings and emotions that are from the spectrum, but the game doesn't play depicted on the spectrum, except for some cards can only feed off of others, like the word, or the like the love card can only feed off of positives, and then the hate card can only feed off of negative cards, such as darkness or destruction or stuff like that. And then there's the love and hate balance between each other, where if you put love and hate together, then you can put a token on each of them. And basically what you're doing is you're trying to basically zone control what's going on, having the most points at the end of the game. And it is a card, it's a card game, but a tile laying game at the same time. They are hexagons. And I keep calling them octagons, but they've only got 6 sides, so it's a hexagon, not octagon, and hopefully I'll not say octagon. Hexagon-shaped cards, and you do have them in your hand, but you play them, and you build like this big, huge network of cards, and you can use their actions, and you can charge them and everything. So let's go ahead and go over to the box, and do keep in mind it is a prototype. But the cards are fantastic for a prototype. Also, the gems that it gave me, I thought maybe I was just going to get little plastic gems or something, but I actually have the real gems that are going to come with it. I have enough for 4 players. The game plays 1 to 6. I haven't played it by myself. I did play with Anna, and so we just played with 2 people. So I do want to play with more people also, and it's for ages 13 and up. It's a 20 to 90 minute game is what the box says. 1 to 6 players. And so let's go ahead and go over to the box and show you what's inside of it on Symetra. Okay, so here we have the box, and if you guys hear a fan, I apologize. I thought the AC had broken the house. Anna actually left the stove on, so it's really hot in the house right now. So if you hear a fan, I do apologize for that in the background, but it hopefully isn't that loud. But anyways, here's the box. Everything that was in there, it was nicely packaged. I did tear this, getting excited about opening it because I really wanted to check this game out, because I really like the color of the cards, and I was reading some of the cards on their Kickstarter on what they do. As far as where this game is at, this game is actually being created out of Canada, so it did take a little while to get here. The game company name is Game Point, and if you guys are interested in looking at their Kickstarter, right now it's sitting at about $3,000 is what they've got with 56 backers, and they need about $9 grand to go. It does have 19 days left, so hopefully you guys can check it out and see all the nice pieces it comes with, and it's got the full rule book on there. Really nice laid out Kickstarter. But this is Symetra, and basically Shape Your Fate, and it is exactly how it sounds. You are going to put cards in certain spots and manipulate the board, or how the tiles are laid, or cards, however you want to look at it. But let's go ahead and open this up, and I know you guys are like, hurry up, just open it up, quit running your mouth. So let's go ahead and get this open. This is a little scoreboard that me and Anna made, just for, that's funny, anime. Anyways, Anna made that to say that I won cycle 1, she won cycle 2, just to keep track of our cycles. And then we just tore up paper. These are actually ours. We tore paper and put potential and actual, because you got to split your pile up into 20 and 30. So the rule book, it's got a lot of pages, and there's a whole summary of the rule book on the back, so it makes it easier. The rule book wasn't too terrible. I think it could have used some more, maybe art, maybe some like colorful images to depict on what you're doing. But this is not the final copy. Me and him have talked back and forth. It is under revision, and they are rewriting it. Actually, their logo on the front is actually going to change. And I thought it was going to be this lady here, which is the actual person that has found a power to go through the cosmos. So she's actually like a goddess or a princess from the Egyptian times, and is going through these like portals, I guess you could say, and going through and traveling through time, and then she has come to us, and we, and that's the whole background story. So she's found a way to travel through time, through these portals, and through emotions and stuff like that. So that's the rule book. The game actually that had two of these, one here and then one over here. So these were actually sitting like this, and then the cards were sitting in between the two things. And we shook test it, and it did amazing for a prototype. I mean, it had a little. I was like, oh, we'll just see, just to have fun with it. We shook test it, everything stayed in the space. And these bags are heavy. There's 50 gems in each of these bags. And this box, it's pretty heavy with those. So if I had enough for 6 people, it'd really be heavy. So the gems are basic. What happened to the foam thing is my son, he liked playing with it, so I gave it to him. And whenever wherever that one has gone, I don't know. So we have another one if he wants it. But anyways, the blue and the orange, which you can't really see, but it's more of like a root beer color, kind of Coke color. And then we have yellow and greens here. And then the little foam insert. And then on the back of the box, I'll show you the cards here in a second, because I really want to show you guys the artwork on that, because it's really neat. Like, you can see a little bit right here. But you can see, orbworld is actually the name of the galaxy, and then symetra, and then a little background going on there. Alright guys, so I'm going to show you guys a characteristic of the cards. Here we have the name of the card, which this one is Light. It is a positive card, so it'll most likely be affected by other positive cards, such as Sound and Life. So Light is the name of the card. Sound and Life is where you get your affinity. And affinity, if you can connect it to Sound and Life at the same time, you get 2 affinity points, which is out of your potential pile, and which will put them on top of this card automatic. And then you have the potential to put those into the actual. Then the player with the most actual is going to win the game. And we'll show you a small tutorial on how to do all that. And then there's, I keep saying enmity, but it's enmity, E-N-M-I-T-Y, and it is dark. And then it is right here, and that's the opposite of light. So when you put light next to dark, you can actually put 1 on each, the dark and the light, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have the action, and each card's text is pretty straightforward on everything. This one says select a player. They draw 1 card from the deck. So basically, when you play, and you can select yourself. So when it says select a player, that does mean yourself. So that's what I mean by it's pretty straightforward. It means select a player, that means you're a player, so you can select yourself to draw a card. There are other cards that maybe you can't do something with a card. A dark card, not the card named dark, but a darker card, an evil card, would actually probably do bad things, and then the lighter cards, the good cards, are going to usually help you out. So when it says select player, this would be one you'd use on yourself. Now if you used its opposite, the dark one, then you would probably want to use it on someone else. So something to look out for. And then this here is the card's cost to do the action. So that's pretty cheap. A 1. I think there's 2s and 3s in there, which makes sense. And so we'll go ahead, that's the characteristics of a card, and we'll go ahead and show you a little bit of gameplay. Okay, so I've got everything set up here. I've got my opponent's actual points here, my actual here, and then potential and potential, and I did that just to keep everything situated easier. Usually those two would be flipped the other way. So what you're going to do at the beginning of the game is everybody's going to get 3 cards, so you pick a dealer. And I'm only simulating 2 people, so it'll be a lot easier. And you can look at your cards, do whatever. But the person that wasn't dealing to your left in turn order will flip over the first card. Okay, so my opponent would have flipped over a 1. I also flipped over a 1, so we will repeat it. So those will go to discard. So opponent draws a 3. And I draw a 1. So we're going to go ahead and put those in discard. Now, at the beginning, you have to take 3 actuals out of your pile and put them in the universal. So we'll make this the universal. So then my opponent also does the same. Now, since I dealt, or actually, since my opponent rolled a 3 on the cards, they go first. So let's see what my opponent has. They have compassion, love, and earth. Well, what's nice about that is that compassion fuses with all positive, and so does love. So let's say my opponent plays compassion, which is all positive. Its opposite is cruelty. So I'm going to look at my cards. I do not have cruelty. Now usually what you'll do is you'll set the card down, let everybody see it, and see if you see any reactions from someone. You're like, okay, so I know they have something that's going to work with this card or against it. Or you could just play the card and go on with it. So you will stage it, like if you don't want to play it yet, you want to see reactions first, and then pick it back up and play another one, or you can just play it. So then I would look at my cards, see if I wanted to do anything with that. I mean, I can't, it's not my turn, it's still the other person's turn. So they would take an actual and they would lock the card. Now they get a free affinity because there's no cards out here, so they get a free one, and that's going to come out of their potential side. See, that's the only way you can get anything out of the potential for it to be cashed into the actual. The person with the most actual at the end of the game is going to be the winner. So let's go ahead and progress this forward. They're going to actually want to charge that with 3. So they're going to be in the lead at a card with already 5 on it, and it's kind of, these are smaller, but the bigger ones, they'll actually line up all the way across and fill the card, so that's how I keep track of that. My yellow beads are a little bit smaller than my green beads. So if they wanted to use that action, they could, because they have charged it, and it only needs 1 point just to put to universal. So they would, if they wanted to, they could make me, they would select a player. They select 1 card from the discard and put it into their hand. Okay, so that one you would probably want to pick yourself. Like I said, the positive ones are going to help you. The negative ones are going to be, you want to use them on other people. So let's say my opponent uses it and they pull, let's just say they pull death. So now they have death, love, and earth in their hand. And they actually are going to draw at the end of their turn, so they would have balance also. So now I'm going to look at my cards. I have emptiness, enthusiasm, and torpor. So, since enthusiasm, what I should say, I'm going to go ahead and fuse with compassion, because that's an all positive card triggering on an all positive card. And you'll see the positive signs on the cards. If it's an up and down line from edge to edge on the hexagon, I almost said octagon, on the hexagon, then you'll it'll be neutral, and then if it's negative, it'll have a negative sign. So pretty simple. So then I would get 1 from actual to lock it. I would get 1 affinity because these two trigger each other, so that's 1 affinity. Because this card was here, so when I fused it, it gave me 1 affinity because I only had 1 link. Now if there was another positive over here, I would have got 2 affinity. Another positive over here, I would have got 3 affinity. Or if I destroy a card and then put this in the center and add them all the way around, I would have got 6 affinity. But the card maxed out at 5, and I would not have to use anything out of actual. I would have got all out of potential, and that would have been an awesome move. So I got 1 affinity and 1 lock, and I'm going to go ahead and charge it with 3. So now I'm tied with my opponent, and I'll show you what I mean by the gems going all the way across. Like, the green ones fill up the cards pretty well, so that one's maxed at 5, and I can see that visually. So that's why I keep track of whether the card's full or not. So then it would go back to my opponent, and then we would go back and forth for 3 rounds. It would be them, and then me, them, and then me, them, and then me. And then you would change, and then it would be me first, and then my opponent, and then me, and then my opponent, and then me, and then my opponent, and then it flips again. And then after you do that 3 times, that's 1 cycle. And at the end of each 3 turns, so let's say it's at the end of 3 turns, we're tied at 5. And then it's going to go to whoever has the most gems in play, which is what we're tied at 5. So let's go ahead and let's go one more move just to show you. So I'm going to draw my card. Now I have Hope, Torpor, and Emptiness. And I'll show you what I mean on how who's going to win what rounds. So I'll basically do like a two hands played round. Let's say they play Love. Okay, so here's a double trigger. Feeds off of all positives. These are both positives. So they're actually going to set it here. They get to lock it with 1, and then they get 2 out of their potential to put on top of Love. So that's really cool. You know, they're up 1, so they only have to play 2 energies from yeah, it was a good move, huh? So they play 2 out of actual and not have to play 3, so now they can keep more in their pool of actual. Now if you run out of actual, you're actually going to be eliminated out of the game because you have no more spending to do any lock of cards and you cannot charge anything. So the only way you can get out of potential is out of linking the cards. So when I linked it to, I got 2 out of potential. So now my opponent draws a card. They don't do the action on the card. Pretend. I know it's sad they didn't do the action. I'm sorry. So I'm going to look at my cards and I'm going to use Hope. And I'm going to play that here. I'm going to lock it. And then, well, I don't know why I'm touching their stuff. I'm going to get 2 affinity because I hooked it to 2 cards. So, there we go. And then I'm going to charge it with 2. So that's 2 rounds. I'll go ahead and put it at a 3rd because it's just kind of playing out kind of nicely. So I would draw a card, and I got Generosity, which is feeding off of all positive. I have 1 all positive, 1 all negative, and then 1 that runs off of Limitation and Void. It would link up to that nicely. So let's go. My opponent would go, and let's say they play. Say they play Death, which would be the perfect time to play this right now. Now Death is going to make it to where they can select a player. They move 2 energy from their actual into their potential. So they're going to play this. It feeds off of no cards, so they have to lock it. And then they get nothing out of potential, so they go ahead and put their 3 on here. They're allowed, maxed. And then they go ahead and do the effect, which is going to cost them 1, and that's going to go to Universal. Now, that they used 1 for the action, now I have to take 2 for my actual, put them in my potential. I just lost 2 points because of a card effect. And its opposite is life. So now that they've taken their turn, They've drawn. Now I get. This is my last shot on this for this cycle, or this round. Innocence, all positive. So this is my chance to actually go up. So I'm gonna play Innocence. I'm gonna lock it. I get 2 potential for playing on 2 positives. I'm gonna play 3 energies. Well, I can only play 2 energies because it caps at 5. So I only had to pay 2. So however you get out of potential is going to be with the effect, and that's going to cost less to come out of actual. And then I draw my card. And that's going to end the first round. So everyone keeps their hands, and we count the gems. So mine's 5, 10, 15, and then it's against 13. So I actually win that round. So the opponent, in their universal, it's going to go back to their potential because they lost. Mine gets to go back to my actual because I won. But the gems that are still on the cards are going to go back to the actual for all players because they didn't actually lose those. The only time you lose them is when they go to the universal and you lose the whole round. Yeah, he's just saying, yeah, whatever, Dad. And you'll do that for 3 cycles, and then you'll play that. And it's basically, you can play it just like that, but to make the game actually go longer for everyone to have a chance, you would play 3 cycles, and then you would count. Obviously, I just won that because that was only the first cycle. So the second cycle, it could go a completely different way. But now I get to start my turn going first. So then I would get to take a card out of my hand, put it out here, get that, get a free affinity because there's nothing out there, and then charge it with 3. And then they would go, and then we would just do everything all over again. Count our actual at the end of 3 cycles, 3 rounds, or what have you. When all the players have gone, that's a round, and you do 3 rounds, so that's a cycle. And then at the end of 3 cycles, you announce the winner of who has the most actual. So that's symetra. That's how you play the game. That's how the gems work. You can see how some of the cards trigger each other. One thing about the cards is the only time the energy moves, say if somebody destroyed this creation card and it was replaced with something, okay, that's perfect. Say creation's right here, and then they trigger destruction. So they lock it. They get no affinity. What am I doing? They actually get no affinity. They're going to these are actually opposites. But just to show you guys, let's say we charge it with 3. Okay, so we're at 5. So what's going to happen is they're going to use destruction. It's going to cost 4. That's going to go over here, the universal, and you do the 3 every time. Well, let's say that this goes like that, and then it says select a card fused to destruction, move its energy into the universal, and put it into the discard. Okay, so this one actually says move it into the universal. This goes to discard. So I lost everything. So it actually destroyed me. There are some other cards that say destroy this, and then another card will come out on the deck. Those energies will actually just move to the new card, and they'll take claim of that. The player that caused that to switch up does not take it. So that was the only confusion I had on the card on when the energies actually disappear and go to the universal. And it is when a card says so. So that's how you play the game. And we'll go ahead and go to our thoughts and what we think about the game and everything. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about the Symetra is that it is a really cool game. It's a lot different. It's actually a different game than I've ever played before. With the gems and then the different cards having different effects towards working together or not working together, working against each other. The artwork, I really like the artwork. That's actually what got me interested in doing, as in contacting, got me in to contact the creator of the game, and so I asked him if we could do a review for it, and I told him I really liked the artwork and the way the cards look, because if you like set them from light to dark, it looks really cool on the board and on the table, and he's got pictures of it on the Kickstarter. I was actually explaining this game to a buddy of mine, and he's like, it sounds like the spectrum of emotion. I was like, oh, well, I don't know what that is, what do you mean? And then he went into how the Green Lantern and all the lanterns of the planet, have to have control over certain emotions, and something about the ring will destroy you if you don't, stuff like that. I really haven't paid attention to the Green Lantern. I like the Green Lantern as a superhero and everything, but I actually didn't realize that there was that much background to the character. I don't really read comics or anything. I just follow cartoons and stuff like that. So, and the cartoon that I actually read, my buddy said that there was one of them that was African American, which that's the one that was depicted in the cartoons. So whichever one he is, that's the one that I know about. And so yeah, he was talking about like it was like the spectrum of emotion, which it may be after that. I was gonna send a message out to the creator and ask him, if it is, because if it is, my buddy said that this is the first time he's ever seen the spectrum of emotion being used ever outside of the Green Lantern and outside of the spectrum itself. I looked up like diagrams on Google of what the spectrum looked like, and the way that they've got set up is the opposites. It's set up like kind of like a flower, and opposite petals are like love and hate, and then light and dark, and then like anger and happiness, stuff like that. So I think it's like kind of a cool concept, how you can take emotions and elements of Earth and stuff like that. That was another thing, the elements, wind, water, fire, earth. I've seen water, fire, earth. I haven't seen wind, so I don't know if that's in here or not. It may be, and I haven't come across it. But yeah, it's a really fun game. I really enjoyed it. We had some complications with the rulebook, because what the rulebook was doing was it would repeat certain things over and over. But they are working on that. They are revising that, so that's not something that you need to worry about. I have seen some of the revision notes, and the rulebook, it's getting there. It's looking a lot better than it started out. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Like I said, it plays 1 to 6 players. It's 20 to 90 minutes to play, ages 13 and up. I think that, and I say this about almost every game, it really depends on how much you game and how much your kids are involved. But I think that kids younger than 13 can play this. I would be careful on how young, because of these little markers. Other than that, I think that's all I have for you. So if you guys enjoyed this review, this little how to play tutorial and showing you the pieces, please subscribe to our channel and tell your friends about us. And if you see us at Gen Con, please say hello. Come up, shake our hands, say hi, or hit me in the back of the head and say you don't know what you're doing. Whatever you want to do, however you feel about it. So I'm Tim, Geeked Up Gaming, and this is Symetra.